Hello and welcome. My name is Tommy Mertel and this is my channel. Now, I've only produced a few videos so far and I hope to continue to do this, but I wanted to talk about something that is relative to the developing space. Now, if you're a avid YouTube watcher, for instance, such as me, who has a subscription to quite a few different websites, you will have noticed that there's been a lot of talk about demonetization. Now, a lot of examples will primarily go over the complaint. Demonetization. I feel that's wrong, but I'm gonna leave it anyway. Anyway, so, oh, and anybody who's watching my show or channel or whatever you want to call it, I don't know what I was gonna say there. Oh, yes. Anybody who is watching my show, I tend to leave this uncut because I go into random tangents, and sometimes it's better this way because it's very good to explore those different tangents. But what I originally wanted to say is that you want to primarily use classes. Now, if you're new to Bootstrap, or you just learned Bootstrap, or you've been using Bootstrap for a long time without actually looking at it, Bootstrap is built very intelligently. And what I mean by this is that whenever you call stuff over here in JavaScript, now of course, you get a certain time lag. It takes a lot of resources to make certain calls. Now, the more specific something is, the more resources it takes to actually grab that class or ID or container or whatever you're trying to grab. There's three elements, and here are the least two greatest resources that are called in terms of grabbing their identifier. So you have elements are the least. So if you have a list of elements, for instance, if I had document dot get elements by tag name, I think it is. I think it's get elements by tag name. I usually don't use this, that's why I have to look this up. Get elements by tag name. I got it right off the bat. If you did something like container div and then p, right? And then you had that inside of a variable, and then you said container dot, well, this is jQuery, so I can go ahead and just use container, right? I spelled it wrong. We can use container and then HTML fail, right? Oh, you can only grab one using these methods, just so you know. I was actually doing that test for myself. But if I were to do this, and if I were to try to recreate the method that jQuery uses, you would have a bunch of series of calls. So, for instance, you saw this, and then you would see can I do that? No, I can't do that. Okay, well, I haven't really taken a deep look into how they actually connect the two elements. But whenever you target a tag within a tag, it's still going to be less than a class call. Okay? So the class is the second least, and the ID is the most when it comes to sucking up resources. There's actually a list of 11 different things that take up the most amount of resources, but in terms of grabbing things on the DOM, the more specific you are, the more resources it's going to require. Okay, so let's get down to talking about the failed demonetization thing, right? So let's say we have, let's choose some benign words. So dog, cat, lunge, right? We're going to have lunge. No, lunge. And then snake, right? And our bad words are lunge and snake. Okay? Now, the reason why I'm making this video is because I'm going to talk about it from the developer aspect. Now, the algorithm that they made works primarily by grabbing the ID of the video. So if you have any bad words in your title in the first place, then you're going to immediately have it demonetized. However, if you have it re-reviewed, then 9 times out of 10 you will have it undemonetized. Now, the reason why this one is bad is because it is actually a contextual word search and not just a blatant word search. So, for instance, let's go ahead and let's see, var searchable. Let's go ahead and set up our console.log here so I can see what I pull in. Search hubble, and then up here I want to go ahead and grab div p and grab the HTML out of that. Alright, so now I should be able to see, yeah, dog, cat, lunch, right? Okay. So now, why did I do that? Now I can split it by space. Come on. Okay. Now, let's go ahead and save that as var failed. Now here is where this comes in. Okay, so we have if failed. Actually, no. Let's start with a var count equals 0, and then we'll run a for loop. Var I equals 0, I is less than failed length, and then I plus plus, right? Okay, now if failed I is equal to, see, let's make lunge a bad word. Count will have a plus 1, right? Oh, also forgot to do that. Bubble. Put some bubble in there. Okay, so, and Babel is just an ECMA 6 translator. Preprocessor. Okay, so, and let's go ahead and make sure that that is running correctly. Okay, yeah. Okay, so now else if and then let's go ahead and set that up, and we're gonna have snake as our, excuse me, I'm moving this so that I can see it better. Okay, so if failed I is equal to snake, then we want to say count plus equals 1. Now else console.log I. No, that's stupid. Why would I do that? We want a console.log count. Okay. So now, if count is greater than 1, console.log you are banned. No, demonetized. Right? Okay. Now, this is essentially the failed algorithm. Now, their algorithm would probably be 10 times, at least 10 times, the size of this algorithm, and it would probably have an API that connected to a database of words, and then you would have something like a blacklist of words like we had back in the day on MySpace, and we had for a short time on Facebook. Now, they may have had a lot more code, but this is basically the only way I can conceptualize something like this happening. So if you have one or more bad things, then you would have if you had one or more bad things, you would be demonetized. Now, why is this such a big problem in terms of algorithm wise? Well, first of all, it's a bad way of handling things. First of all, there are words that this work with, right? There are words such as the birds and the bees, and things like that. I don't particularly want this YouTube, which has just started to start getting demonetized. So I'm trying to keep my vulgarity down. There's certain things that are obviously something that you want to demonetize, you want to discourage. But there are gray areas. Actually, there are tons of gray areas. For instance, those who talk about unpleasant things to make light of them or to give a different perspective of them so that those dark things don't occur as much. And if anyone here has watched Boogie, you would understand what I'm talking about. Now, obviously, this size of a company cares more about the people paying them than it does the content creators. And what I mean by that, because that doesn't make sense at first, but you have tons of people who YouTube knows will continue to make content the way they want them to make content. So they already know that their base is not going to leave unless there are some drastic problems. What they're not sure about are the advertisers. And the advertisers are the people who pay people like me, even though I have no, it's not even worth mentioning. And people like PewDiePie, these advertisers are the ones who are the reason why YouTubers have a paycheck in the beginning. Now, advertisers are allowed to be picky, and the fact that people are complaining that they are picky is kind of amusing, because there's been a lot of criticism that YouTube has taken a political stance on what content that they want to allow. But in both cases, the content creators don't really have a right to complain. And the reason why I say this is because the content creators didn't make the website. The content creators didn't code the codex that allows them to use the website. The content creators didn't organize the advertisers that allow them to do this stuff in the first place. Okay? So, the content creators make the content, which, you know what? You can honestly go host your own content and go advertise your own content. As an Udemy instructor, I face this on a daily basis within the Udemy studio, because you have people who complain about not making enough money and their main website is making thousands, but at the same time, you know what? It's your choice. You can stay here or you can leave, but you complaining about it is not helping the environment. You suggesting changes, that can help the environment, but you complaining about it in general and making a big racket over a decision that the company made as a whole, yeah, believe it or not, there's enough people in the world that want to make videos for money that the few people that do complain will be drowned out by the crowd of people who don't complain. And that's something that a lot of YouTube content creators just sometimes ignore, sometimes can't wrap their head around, and you know what? That's them. They can do them. But when you make an algorithm like this, that's this blatantly general, it's bad for your website. It is horrible for your website. And I'm saying this as a person who has seen companies crumble because of bad search algorithms. Good job. I've seen companies crumble because of their algorithms not being up to par and being too generalized. Now, the reason why I say that I've taken note of this is because those who have complained, unless they're really, really bad, have generally had their stuff repealed. And that is where you notice that this is a bad algorithm and that this is just a blanket fix. You see, whenever you have so many content creators, now YouTube is a special case. YouTube is a very special case because when you have this many content creators on a single platform, you can't just nitpick. You can't just have a team of people working nonstop in order to try and stop the bad stuff from coming online. Okay? So, even though their blanket algorithm is not something you want to use for a medium website, for a giant website, sometimes it's acceptable because there's just too many people to go through. And the fact that they have a review process in the first place so that these videos can be reviewed by a human and cleared obviously shows that they're trying to do their best to keep the platform clean. Now, a lot of you have probably heard the bad side of things, I want to say, where the YouTubers you like get hit. But YouTube is actually doing something very, very important. Yes, the YouTubers that you like got hit, but so did the people who are uploading stuff that make it hard for YouTube to do anything without scrutiny. What I mean by that is, for instance, when you upload certain items that should be marked for adult only and blatantly adult only, but you aren't caught because there are so many content creators that whatever you name your content, you'll still get monetization for quite some time before it's shut down. Now with this blanket terminology, if there's even one report on your video, it automatically gets demonetized. Now, hopefully, and I'm hoping this, I'm hoping that this is the new fix to the current problem that people have with their videos being reported for copyright block. Because demonetization would give the people who actually own the content or who have rights to the content enough time to react to the bad damages that a copyright strike can do to their channel. So there's a lot more aspects to this blanket algorithm, but in general, this type of algorithm is not something you want to use on any website that's not a giant like YouTube or a giant like Google. And I've actually seen something very similar to this in the YouTube search recommendations. Because if you search for anything bad, you won't see your words come up. And that's how you know that those words are being blocked. So if you search for anything bad on YouTube that's actually bad, and you know it's bad, and you know it shouldn't be on YouTube, that is where you get that from. Now, this has been in place for over a year. It's just now kicking in because they just now built an algorithm that they've tested enough to do what they want it to do. This was purposeful, okay? This wasn't a mistake in their system. This wasn't a giant business who made a mistake. This was purposeful. This algorithm took time to make. Okay? Because there are very specific videos that are targeted. Now, this was a very basic example. This is not to say that this is exactly what YouTube is doing. Number one, they probably have a bigger API. Number two, they probably have a bigger library that they're using for bad words. Number three, they're probably using contextual references. For instance, I showed you how we have a contextual reference of bad words. So if there's more than one bad word in the sentence, then that automatically says that's a bad video. There's also thumbnails. And you know this to be true. If you've seen anything on YouTube that's not specifically code related or education related, you know that they love to make bad thumbnails. Well, there you go. There's another way you can get a contextual part of the puzzle. Now, if that's the case, that would also explain why it took them almost a year to implement this algorithm, because then you would have to actually have an image processor that processed different types of bad images. So likely they have a much bigger system. This was on purpose, and it is more specifically pointed at the bad parts of YouTube that they cannot contain because there's so many content creators. YouTube gets away with this because it's so big. You should never do this type of thing on a small to medium website. It's exactly the wrong type of practice. But whenever you get so big, you have to break some of the good practice rules in order to actually manage the website in the first place. Alright, so I just wanted to make this video just to clear things up, just to give you, a coder or a person who's very concerned about the demonetization method, a reason why that this is occurring. But anyway, like, subscribe, yada yada yada. See you later in the next video. Yeah, love ya, I guess. I don't know if I love you yet. I haven't received any comments, so I have no idea if anybody's actually watching these. But hey, whatever, I still like making them.